And the mic is on. Excellent. Welcome to the nap, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The nap is a daily show, so please join us 45 minutes before the question period, or until the government decides to stop showing up in the lower house. We are streaming on 3 platforms: Rumble, X, CommuTube. So please like, thumbs up, follow, share, and subscribe. And most of all, the chat is up, so please feel free to ask anything. Keep it clean and don't be abusive. Comments drive the algorithm up when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. All right, and then after the stream, we will get around to posting the links of anything that we cover on this prior to the question period. Well, it has been quite a very busy last 24 hours. Well, less than 24 hours since the question period finished yesterday. Many things were brought up, and the Liberals do not look too clean. And even more things have come out since yesterday. One of the big things, obviously, is who has been funding Prime Minister Mark Carney's campaign during the last election, which apparently most of his money was driven from the elites in Canada, the most rich people. Of course, they stand to benefit from his policies, as we said beforehand, because the Liberals are not about the little people, although they act like they are, and they always point to the bad man, because that's all they can do, is make someone else look bad so that they can look good. Well, apparently, even with them having all these rich people supporting them as opposed to, I guess, normal people supporting not the liberals. Of course, the far left, the liberals, they're making excuses for this as well. They will act like the hypocrites. They don't care because they believe that everyone's memory is as long as theirs, like that of a fish. Now let's get right into it. Start covering our stories that we've been tracking prior to the question period, just things that are going on in Canada and sometimes throughout the world that we should be concerned about. And one of them, of course, is the ostrich farm. And it looks like they have been culling birds, as I called yesterday. They even tried to, they're looking around and they're seeing there's less of the flock going on. The live stream today was working yesterday. Even one of the RCMP cops, apparently, and this is a story that I got from watching Redacted as they were interviewing Creighton. We'll have a little piece right after this. One of the RCMP offered to Katie that he would fly one of their drones around and get some footage and see if, that to kind of alleviate her anxieties of, is the flock shrinking? There could be already about 30 or 40 birds that have already been disposed of by CFIA. Well, CFIA, upon finding out that the RCMP were going to fly a drone around, the CFIA lost their mind, right? They're like, what? How? Like, they thought it was a big step on their jurisdiction. But, the RCMP are there working with them. This is how these bureaucrats act, right? They answer to no one. They think they can boss everyone around. It's just absolutely insane. Let's move on here to this little bit of story from Creighton's Right yesterday.
Reporting, as always, on the universal ostrich farm situation, where, of course, over 300 ostriches, we don't know exactly how many are left, are facing a killing from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Now, I just got off the line with Katie Pisitne, spokeswoman for the farm, and who has been fighting this so-called cull order now for quite some time. She tells me that she's heard on good authority that Donald Trump spoke to Prime Minister Mark Carney about the ostrich situation when the two met in Washington, D.C. earlier this week for their summit. And apparently Donald Trump called the situation with the ostriches silly, and he wants it resolved. So this is huge news, and I think this might be the breaking point for a political solution to this madness. These birds must be saved, private property must be respected, and the lives and work of farmers must not be destroyed by this ravenous Carney government. More news about this when I have it. Thanks for watching. So David Creighton here reports.
Creighton's been covering this as best as he can from Ottawa, and he's been paying a lot of attention on this issue. I've put out a couple of videos, and within those videos, I put in the documents and the links to the documents, which is why we are seeing what's happening now with the CFIA, because these regulations have made them a law unto themselves, untouchable, even by the Supreme Court. Why? Because they have locked themselves into international regulations that Canada has signed on to. And if anybody interferes, then it puts those regulations in jeopardy for other trade regulations that are attached to it, that other nations can say, whoa, you're not adhering to those health regulations, and we can't import these other things that you're exporting to us because, you know, you didn't follow those health regulations, even though those health regulations have absolutely nothing to do with consuming food. Because for some reasons, they went and included ostriches in with poultry when they are nothing like poultry. They should have included them with animals like emus. All right, because they're not included in poultry in Canada. Neither are peacocks. Well, why did they do it with the ostriches? Because somebody made a mistake and nobody will admit to it. Let's follow the bureaucracy rather than follow the science. There's been a big theme from the Liberals since they have come into power in 2015. My way or the highway, or you're a racist. So, of course, the digital ID situation in the UK continues to have its petition signed, slowly creeping up to 3 million signatures. Now they're, 243,000, just under, away from 3 million signatures. But of course, we know that Keir Starmer says, screw that, we're going to do it anyway. Well, at least the Brits have to find some humor in that.
Halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint. Present identification for labour allocation.
Here, I've got me card.
Brit card valid.
Proceed.
Next.
Please, I'm just taking my
relocation.
boy to school.
You know what happened last week, Rodders? They shut me down. Council fella turns up, flashes a badge, all because I wouldn't take one of them flaming brick cards.
You got closed for
I
that?
said, cash only, pal. He says, no brick card, no light.
You will recognise Palestine. Recognise it immediately, or you will be exterminated.
All right, I recognise Palestine, I swear. Just don't hurt anyone.
Affirmation received. Identify yourself. Present Brit card for service.
Sorry? A brick card? I've just got a bank card.
Brit card required. Proof of Britishness mandatory to procure. Sir, no Brit card to board this bus. Present it. Present it
I
immediately.
haven't got one.
Look, I've got cash.
Can't you just take
Payment
that?
in currency is not accepted. You are not compliant.
Wait!
I'll get off all right. Just let me produce your Brit card.
And I think we play this every Friday now for a couple of weeks. But you gotta laugh at the evil. You have to find some humor in it. Even though humor is basically outlawed now because it will always offend somebody. This is how the communists do it. Slice by slice, destroying our country, our way of life. Well, Mark Carney, CBC state broadcaster, laughs and laughs at the Montreal church where the Antifa thug threw smoke bombs at a Christian pastor in the middle of a religious service. Let's listen to this.
Grande enquête de Rebel News. Vous vous souvenez du chanteur Sean Furch, un chanteur de type MAGA qui est venu chanter, je ne sais pas comment le prononcer. Il est venu chanter dans une église de Montréal cet été après avoir été banni de quelques autres endroits. Mais sa venue avait fait beaucoup jaser. Quelqu'un avait lancé une bombe fumigène pendant le concert. Rebel News avait promis une récompense pour qui allait identifier cette personne. Et il semble qu'il y ait un snitch qui se soit manifesté, comme l'expliquait Alexandra Lavoie.
Chez Rebel News, nous avons fait ce que la police de Montréal aurait dû faire. Nous avons lancé une campagne de récompense pour identifier et retrouver le criminel qui pensait pouvoir s'en tirer après avoir attaqué une église à l'aide de dispositifs incendiaires. Non seulement nous l'avons trouvé, mais dans le processus, nous avons peut-être découvert une grave faille en matière de sécurité nationale.
Rien de moins, oui. Pendant qu'elle parle, on nous montre d'ailleurs des images de l'attaque où on voit le chanteur qui tient le fameux dispositif incendiaire, c'est-à-dire une petite grenade qui fait de la fumée rose. Puis il a l'air à trouver ça bien drôle, le chanteur. Le présumé grenadier serait un employé d'une base militaire, selon Rebel News. D'ailleurs, c'est probablement au ministère de la Défense qui a appris à manipuler cette dangereuse arme.
Est-ce pour cela qu'ils savaient manipuler des dispositifs incendiaires? Et quel type de formation est donnée dans l'armée pour rendre possible ce type d'attaque?
Oui, ils ont probablement des cours sur le déploiement tactique de bombes à saveur de fraises. Bref, ils ont trouvé le gars en question et sur les 17 minutes du reportage, il y en a peut-être 12 où elle fait juste le suivre avec sa photo imprimée en lui posant des questions, mais lui, il répond jamais.
La photo est pas mal ressemblante, hein? Est-ce que vous trouvez? Trouvez-vous qu'elle est très...
Well, apparently I just couldn't turn sound off. I just had turn sound off. I couldn't even stop the video. Weird things happen on this post sometimes. So yeah, oh, so funny. Oh yeah, strawberry scented smoke grenade. I don't think they realize how serious this is. As a warrant officer, former warrant officer of the Canadian Armed Forces, that actually was in charge of the department at one time that handled the bomb dump, the local wing where I worked, I could tell you that this is a serious offense. These smoke bombs, right? They all fall under the same category when it comes to dealing with munitions and explosive devices. There has to be very strict control, right down to every last one of them to be accounted for. And if not, there's going to be a big investigation. And the people that handle these munitions in the Department of National Defense fall under two sets of laws, civilian and military. The National Defense Act is very, very strict when it comes to its regulations. Handling something like this, right? I think this goes beyond the catch-all offense of 2 years less a day, right? To keep them in a military prison. Anything over 2 years, they usually have to serve in a civilian prison. So they'll serve their first 2 years in military and then off to the civilian prison for vacation. Because military prison ain't no vacation. Even though they still use military prison, because really, what kind of law is there in the military these days? Who knows? Apparently, especially if you can just walk out with a smoke grenade from a munitions depot, assuming that's where he got it. I have no idea, but what was the follow-up on the canister? And I mentioned this before in this podcast. Every one of them is going to have a lot number and a serial number. And of course, it could be burned off, but you can recover some of that off the canister. Who knows? However, it just baffles me that the D&D has not said anything about this member, and that these people are laughing about this. This is a weapons offense. This is an offense, a big violation of the law, right? The same people that want to go after your legal guns are laughing about, oh, just was this guy was he able to walk out of a munitions depot on Department of National Defense property? And they're laughing about it. They're laughing about it. Well, there's a reason for that, because CBC is, cream of Bravo Sierra. As a reminder, well done, Liberals. The percentage of young adults living with their parents is the highest since the Great Depression. The old joke that they had about, living in your mother's basement, it's more of a reality than a choice. And it's only getting worse as more and more people keep losing their jobs in Canada because of Liberal policies. Wealth flees, independent wealth, individual wealth that drives the economy, that creates jobs, not the government. The government doesn't create jobs. The government taxes money. The government gets in the way of creation. It sets very strict guidelines, and then those guidelines have no motivation. They have no motivation because, what they said good enough for government work is that, it'll get done when it's done, because the people that are doing it are getting paid regardless. They don't care how much it costs because they're the government, right? And especially this government, watching how the rotten head from the top of the fish has been rotting away at following regulations, about following ethics. But when you look at those examples at the top, how do you think the people down below are going to act? They're going to think to themselves, well, they're not following the law, why should I? Or they will just leave the country, like so many have, taking their wealth with them, leaving those that remained here with no exit strategy to slowly devolve into the depressive economic hell that the liberals are creating for us. And these stats don't lie. Stats don't lie. Right? The bottom line doesn't lie. When we are paying more in interest to cover the debt that the liberals have created since 2015 than what the GST collects, you know that a GST hike in the tax is coming because the liberals can't control themselves. Well, of course, they can't control they're liberals. They're by default. They will always spend more than what they have because they have no accountability. Here's a post by Kelly Bainbridge. I was charged for protecting my home when Harper had power. So we had these issues recently, and we're seeing more issues that are going to come up, especially if new legislation gets into place in Canada, making it more difficult for citizens to protect themselves. And it's already impossible now. Just read this. Mandatory 4 years behind bars if convicted while Conservatives had power. Right. Did the Conservatives do anything about this legislation about home castle laws under Harper? No, they did not. I was found guilty of using excessive force protecting my son at 4 a.m. from a bunch of thugs. Imagine that. Home invasion. And you're the one charged. Long story short, I did 15 4-day weekends under Liberal power. It was decided I was a good mom, and 4 years meant I could lose my children. One was a baby at the time. So the very fact that victims are being charged in Canada, regardless of where these laws came from, is insane. And it's nice for some of the politicians to talk about and say something about it. You know, they introduced their jail not bail. Well, where's the home castle defense coming? Oh, it's not going to come under the Liberals. The Liberals want to control everything, including what you think. I mean, I wonder how many illegal guns they've confiscated recently. Oh no, that's right. They only confiscate legal guns. That's right. Yeah, just like the Nazis did in Germany in 1933. Concerned citizen says, I think Elon Musk is an idiot. Why? Because he invented SpaceX and Tesla? People are waking up. They've been lied to the entire time. You're terrified he's allowed speech you can't control. These are all quotations, right? Incredible exchange. You can literally watch the liberal left malfunction. Let us watch this.
Are you an Elon Musk fan?
You know why Elon Musk terrifies you and you call it disinformation? Because it's speech you cannot control. That's it. You can't control, although you're trying. Listen, with the online safety
you think he's a Democrat?
You are trying.
You think he believes in democracy?
Do you believe in democracy?
Well, obviously I do, but...
How do you believe? Did people vote for the digital ID? Did people vote for the online safety bill? No, you don't believe in democracy. You don't believe in Brexit.
Elon Musk.
You want it over...
Elon Musk
is not an elected official. I want the leader of this country to believe in democracy.
Are you a fan of him?
I'm a fan for anyone that protects free speech. Yes, I am a fan of him. He is a genius. Have you thought what he's brought to...
I think he's an idiot. I think he doesn't understand...
He's an idiot.
I don't think he understands our political
Someone who's
system
created SpaceX and Tesla is an idiot.
Is
an idiot.
They keep blowing up. He's wiped millions off the share price of his own company.
Labour cabinet member who's achieved...
I think he's an absolute danger to himself and others.
In what sense? I'll tell you what's a danger, is a corrupt Labour Party. Is a corrupt Labour Party that's... Yes, because you're running a country. I'll tell you what's a danger, is you trying to chip away our freedoms bit by bit with the online safety bill, the digital ID, under the guise of safety.
I don't believe he actually thinks in democracy.
You know, the problem is that the establishment used to control what we see and hear. Now we have X, and that terrifies people like you. It terrifies. No, he's not. You are the establishment. Your party is the establishment. And actually people are waking up to they've been lied to the whole time. And that terrifies your...
Indeed, they are terrified. And that is why all these bills are coming into Canada. I wouldn't be surprised if they come through and they decide to just block access to certain media coming into Canada. Because it's not safe, you see. It's not safe for you to think differently than what the Liberals want you to think. It's happened in Canada. Police state by Christmas. I think that's going to be the theme from now on, starting next week. Of course, next week there is no sitting in the House because they're on vacation. A bit of a fly here. There is no sitting in the house next week, but we will be doing some live shows throughout the week, covering stuff like this. Of course, there will be shorter shows, and we do have a lot of digital cleanup to do as we are wrapping up the growing season, which means wrapping up the gardening channel, and actually have some physical gardening to catch up on. And that is putting the garden away. Well, let's look at our next post here. And it's very telling that the only way that evil works is if it can maintain its control through fear and in silence. And you saw that person right there. They are running scared on the left. And we're seeing it right now on X because the shift has now moved into personal attacks against conservatives and their MPs, as opposed to dealing with the facts that are being presented, just like happened before the last election and for like months and years before that, because I mean there was so much fodder of the horrible leadership of Justin Trudeau and all the destructive policies. And now, of course, they've tried to wipe that all away with a new government. Oh yes, it's the new Liberal government. No, it's not. It's the same old government, same old tricksters, same old liberal elites funding Carney's re-election. And let's go down here and have a quick look at make sure that we've got a view on the House. I'll have a repeat of tomorrow. Make sure that the House is actually all the way forward. Yesterday was a little lagging behind. So here we have this story. It was on Blazing Cat Fur. And you have these posters being put up in schools in Ontario. And we're talking about how schools, when I went to school, elementary school, high school, I did not know the political affiliation of my teachers. Nowadays, that's all they do is teach politics to your children. Diversity, equity, inclusion, this whole branch of Marxism, they are teaching your children to be little Marxists, right? They're not teaching them about merit. They're not teaching them all to be victims, that somebody has to affirm them. And if they don't affirm them, then they are immediately a victim and somebody else is racist. And the victim oppressor mentality gets inculcated into them. And you create all these nice little fascists and Marxists who want to go around and make sure that other people follow the rules, because they've been taught that in order for them to live a certain way, they have to follow rules. And if other people don't follow those same rules, then everything goes to shit. And they can't respect other people's values or different political opinion, because when they don't follow those rules, it means everything goes to shit under Marxism and everybody has to follow the same rules. And if you don't, and that's why they get all crazy and have this little fugue in their brain. And then they turn to violence, because violence is the last refuge of a weak mind. And here you have this horrible thing. So, of course, Convoy Karen here was not very happy, and she contacted the school, and we don't know what's happened yet, but I'm wondering if they've taken these down. But it's not the first time we've seen the schools in Canada put stuff up that is just unethical, immoral, and really infringes on the culture, rights, and values that parents should be inculcating at their children, and not the bureaucracy, not their teachers. The teachers are there to teach them the material objectively, not to brainwash them. Now, we covered this a bit yesterday. There's a post where this guy in Gagetown, in New Brunswick, says he knows for a fact there are many interpreters being used for new recruits, since most of them don't understand English or French. No joke, Canadian Armed Forces recruits need translators so the CEO or the training staff can talk to them. Now, it's insane that you actually have an aptitude test that they're no longer doing when you join the forces. How are they actually letting people join? Well, they have a list. We need so many black people, so many brown people, so many yellow people, so many Indian people, so many Muslim people, so many non-Christian people, so many Marxists, so many communists, so many everything else. And then at the very bottom will be Christians and whites. And that's why you have so many of those guys right now waiting for a call, but they're at the bottom of the list and they're outside the quota. Yeah, Canada has a quota to meet. And in order to meet this quota, they are bringing people in the Canadian Armed Forces that are not natural born citizens, that can't speak the language. What kind of military, what kind of government staffs its own military with non-citizens? What do they want to use that military for? Against its own citizens? Because that would be the perfect military to have, is one made up of not your citizens. I think there's a name for that. I think there's a name for those kind of soldiers that you use, that you hire, that are not your own citizens. And the beauty of it is they're using the citizens' own tax dollars to train these guys, to hire these interpreters. It's insane. It's absolutely insane what the Liberals have done to the Canadian Armed Forces. They purged anyone in there with any kind of morals or ethics and values with the covidity stupidity, because those that knew that this was a violation of rights, because they didn't follow the law, they used an administrative trick to keep soldiers from countermanding the order by electing for a trial. But because, well, they changed the trial rules since then in the National Defense Act. But back then, they would have had to charge you for summary trial for refusing an order, and then you could have elected for a courts martial, and then in that trial, you would have been able to present all your evidence why this vaccine is evil and deadly and injurious because of the way the military system works. But so they knew they couldn't do that. So they didn't even use the charge on the books for refusing a vaccination. They had this charge on the books, but they wouldn't use it. They had that offense. They wouldn't use it. Why? Because they knew they had to use another trick. So they purged 10% of their Canadian Armed Forces, people that either refused and got punted out, or people that refused and released. 10% and haven't been able to make those numbers back up. And those that remained that took it, those that they've seen their fellows get injured and abandoned. So now they're all sitting back going, oh my God, when am I going to get sick from this injury, from this injection? From all the list of bad things as I'm seeing people around, as they're seeing the excess death rate increases, as they're seeing people just drop dead at a young age, in their late 50s, no reason whatsoever. Yeah, they took the injection. Not saying, just saying. The stats from Health Canada don't lie. We've posted them before. We've had John Carpay discuss these stats. Has a video on them. But no, now we have to replace all our Canadian Armed Forces members with non-citizens. And they make them a priority over Canadians to hire. Nobody's talking about that. You got to find this out on independent media. Which is really in keeping. I'm wondering how many of those people that they're bringing in are actually part of this situation.
Number of gangland people, number of people with organized crime links from Punjab have been made welcome in Canada. We have been telling Canada, saying, look, these are wanted criminals from India. You have given them visas. They have come, many of them, in false documentation. And yet you allow them to live there. If you decide to import for political purposes people with very dubious, actually very negative background, there will be issues. They have, in some cases, created problems in their own country, result of their own policies.
That is the Minister of External Affairs for India. His own words, we're letting in criminals into our country. They warned us, and they're coming in with fake documents. These are people that create issues in their own countries, and if Canada's doing it for political purposes, we're going to have a problem. His words.
Yeah, so people are thinking, oh, if they're illegal, they'll certainly capture those illegal documents. Well, it's taking an average now of 7 years just to get a security upgrade for people that already have a security classification within the Department of National Defense. Even before I left, from the late 2010s, as we were all gearing up and many people were going to Afghanistan and we were all upgrading our security clearances again or having them confirmed because many of us have been in so long at that time and you have to redo it every 10 years. So you'd think like a 10-year checkup wouldn't take too long, but no. it was like 5 years. So I actually got my security clearance that I needed before Afghanistan, after Afghanistan. Even though I had it, it just, it was expired, so they just give an extension. But then that's to reconfirm it for people we already had in the system. And of course, with the purge, there's far less people doing background checks. And now that you're inundating the Canadian Armed Forces with non-citizens, how are you supposed to check their backgrounds properly? And if you believe that they are going to be successful in screening them, let's just remember one of the first things the Liberals did when they got back into power in 2015, and that was to give Omar Khadr $10 million. Yes, a known terrorist. Give him $10 million. Oh yeah, well we violated his rights. Yeah, so we had to give him $10 million. And then of course they had no issue whatsoever spending hundreds of millions of dollars violating everybody's rights with the Freedom Convoy and everything else that followed. So, just tell me that the Liberals are really in love with terrorists, apparently, and not in love with Canada. Oh, yes. Well, it's Greg Wycliffe has something coming. Do we have enough time for this? Yes, we do. Greg Wycliffe, we highlighted him a couple of days ago. He has a documentary coming up, and this is very good.
The language the government were using was anyone that was patriotic was a troublemaker.
Online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, and hate.
Do you think we live in a free country?
No.
Who the fuck cares about that paper anymore?
You caught the RCMP in lies.
We caught them in lies ourselves during the convoy.
Why was I even arrested? Start there.
Far too many Canadians face hatred and discrimination.
I was basically accused of teaching my children hate.
I've got death threats many times. I had death threats.
The guards were giving them incentives to murder me in prison.
If you challenge any of the current government and media narratives of the day, they're going to come after you.
Including adding a definition of hatred to the criminal code.
Hate speech, which, what does that even mean?
Because now you have the most sensitive people in the room deciding what everyone else can say.
This is also a country where unserious people start unserious organizations like the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
It's almost the attack dog for the Liberal Party.
These are Antifa journalists being funded by our federal government.
We are very proudly anti-fascist and we focus on the far right.
They are consistently found to be fraudulent.
Setting the agenda on what constitutes hate and how that hate should be addressed.
They're not shooting us dead on the streets yet.
If it doesn't work, now what? Are you going to assassinate me?
Charlie Kirk has been shot.
Like, it's okay if we died.
They're not concerned about the safety of everyone.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Canadian kindness is an illusion.
Bullies, racists, bigots, and Nazis.
Being defamed is a horrible experience.
Because of a joke? They needed a boogeyman for their Emergencies Act, right?
You cannot live in a country where you actually believe something and you're not allowed to say it.
What was hanging over my head was 50 million and 15 years prison.
The process becomes the punishment.
When is this tyranny going to end?
Is Canada free? Not for some.
First they came for, and then they came for, and then they came for you. There was nobody to defend you because everybody else is in jail.
To help this document.
Ain't that the truth? Police state by Christmas, folks. Police state by Christmas. That is where Canada is heading. We tried to warn you for years what the Liberals are, who they are, and they will smile all the way and lie to you till they lock the door behind you. Whether they lock that door through house arrest, put you in a digital gulag so you can't contact anybody, or just make you disappear in jail because you said something that they didn't like. That's the future.
Canada are bringing in stupid laws such as being able to take your internet away, or, you know, jailing you for speaking the truth and observations that you see as a human being, that's because their propaganda of gaslighting you isn't working anymore. So I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a pattern around the world with liberal governments is to just gaslight, deny, never take accountability. Basically, the society of woke liberals that they've created. People who never take responsibility for their actions, people who never self-reflect, and they're being told that they are correct at all times. And now they're going to back it up with laws where you can't talk or you go to jail if you do talk. And there's a specific reason for that. The reason why they gaslight you is because it does something very specific psychologically to an individual. But to a society, it actually breaks the cohesion of society, making us not trust each other because you stop trusting yourself and you start doubting your own reality because everybody around you, the media, the liberal government, all of these propagandists who are for the woke left, are gaslighting you and telling you what you should believe. And if your views do not align with them, they call you names and they shame you. Let me just show you this. So this is long-term gaslighting abuse on an individual level. The effects include anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, isolation, confusion, leading to a persistent feeling of self-doubt and questioning about one's own reality. It can also result in PTSD, difficulty trusting others, codependency, and a diminished sense of self-worth. And we've seen that in society right now, especially with the woke left. Now, on a societal level, gaslighting on this level actually causes perception of reality, leading to widespread confusion, anxiety, depression, and a decrease in self-confidence across the population. This form of manipulation, often seen in political and media contexts, creates powerful imbalances. And that's the imbalance between those of us who can see and those idiots, NPCs, who just go along with the agenda, and can cause people to second-guess their beliefs, questioning their sanity, and foster feelings of hopelessness and isolation, ultimately weakening social cohesion and collective efforts to address problems. That's why liberal governments don't solve any problems. They're stupid. They don't want to solve any problems. They just want to create them and then gaslight you and tell you that everything's fine. Kind of like the Portland mayor who's like, no, this is the most beautiful city ever and it's so safe. And it's like, dude, we've got eyes. We can see. Just like Mark Carney and in the UK where they're like, we don't have a problem. What are you guys talking about? Everything's fine. And we're like, no, it's not fine. That's what they're trying to do on purpose. They are trying to create this confusion so that we don't stick together and solve the problems.
Yes, indeed. That right there, all of that I've been talking about. Gaslighting. Constant gaslighting about everything they do. And then, of course, the biggest gaslighting of all, which was the COVIDity stupidity. And they still continue to gaslight to this day. To this very day. Right? They refuse to acknowledge the harms and the deaths that they have caused with the COVID-19 vaccine or the mandates, or all the people's lives that they destroyed, or all the damage that they did with the economy, that the people who fled taking their riches with them, or the damage that they'd done to the institutions, or the damage that they did that people no longer trust the government, especially this fascist government. And yes, fascism. It is true medical fascism what they put people through. Gaslighting them about the actual effectiveness while we could see people around us dropping who were taking it. And they continue to gaslight to this day. But it has worked so well on some of the citizens because, like I've said before, their brains are permanently broken and it will take a lot of deprogramming in order to bring them back to sanity. And some of them will never come back to sanity. Some of them will die believing that they are right for having wanted other control over other people. That's really it. And we still have a few minutes here. We're still looking at the House of Commons, and they are still doing statements of members. So, in their zeal to comply with aggressive international commitments, various levels of governments have thrown away hundreds of millions of dollars in the now bankrupt EV ventures. They have also shown wanton disregard for the property and lives of Canadians. Fire chiefs to the rescue. I've mentioned this before, but nobody thinks about this in the Green Movement of what are the long-term implications of the technology you are importing and forcing people to use. Like windmills, for instance. Oh, they're nice and pretty. They have a 20-year lifespan. Okay, at the end of the lifespan, which they never seem to reach because they always fail before that, how are you going to dispose of all that toxic material that they're made of? They don't have that in their business plan because it's all about green. They don't look at the far end situations. And lithium batteries have always had, have always been treated as hazardous cargo. Right? They've always known to be very dangerous. That's why you can't bring them on planes, because they could self-combust at any time. Just the slightest damage on these things can cause a thermal runaway. And of course, you can't put them out unless you completely submerge them in oil to rob them of the oxygen. But other than that, you have to let them burn. And of course, insurance rates surrounding anything to do with EVs, well, they're going through the roof. And when they're talking about the hundreds of millions, I think was it 4 out of the 6 big money EV projects, including the batteries that the government has just dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into, they've all failed. Yeah, just constant failure. And who's holding the bag for that? Citizens, taxpayers. And we're just confirming here, looking here, and we're still at statements by members. So let's see what the do we have the video? Or there was video. Don't really need the video. If your neighbor has an EV, well, when that EV goes up, if it goes up, you know, if it catches fire, get the hell away. Because the intense of that flame is enough to engulf the houses next to it and the house next to that. It is very, very, very bright. And oh yes, the beachhead in PEI. We will start playing this and probably go right into the question period. The Chinese communists have set up a beachhead in PEI by purchasing a lot of property.
To us. And what we found was money laundering, corruption, and elite capture at the highest levels. During our investigation, we had some brave citizens, islanders from Prince Edward Island that came forward and provided a depth of information that would provide for a law enforcement agency sufficient grounds to launch a criminal investigation. The Master Jin Yan, who came into the province, it is our belief from our investigation that he's tied
7% and approaching 500,000 unemployed Canadian youth. Increasing state of
member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Liberal policies are causing a deepening youth unemployment crisis, leaving the next generation in an increasing state of desperation. Today's unemployment numbers show a further spike in youth unemployment, now up to 14.7% and approaching 500,000 unemployed Canadian youth. Youth unemployment was already at recession levels before these further increases. Liberals promise change, but their broken promises are pushing yet more young people out of work. Do they understand that these unemployment numbers aren't just hurting youth today, but are setting them up for more struggle and pain throughout their lives?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to Secretary of State for Youth.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about those jobs numbers today. Statistics Canada reported that employment has increased by 60,000 jobs. That is 28,000 jobs in manufacturing, 14,000 new jobs in healthcare, 106,000 full-time jobs, Mr. Speaker. We have a plan, we are making progress, and we are going to be there to create good-paying, career-starting jobs for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, only an out-of-touch Liberal would try to congratulate themselves when we have a significant increase in youth unemployment in this country. These are the facts. Over 17,000 young people in Ontario alone lost their jobs in the last month. Overall unemployment remains at 17.1% and continues to increase in major cities, including the city where that parliamentary secretary is supposed to represent. How can these Liberals dare try to pat themselves on the back when Statistics Canada today shows even more young people out of work?
Very good. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let's deal in facts here. These jobs numbers are for September. At the end of a summer, many youth are actually leaving jobs, going back to school, back to other work. But coming back to what the Liberal government is doing, we're investing $1 billion, for example, in Red Seal trades for apprenticeships. We're investing in work-integrated learning. We're investing in co-ops, Mr. Speaker. But most importantly, we are going to be building the houses and investing in the projects that are going to create tens of thousands of jobs for all Canadians right across the country, beginning with our young people.
No, member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Secretary said these numbers might reflect young people leaving the workforce to go back to school. That suggests she doesn't actually understand how the unemployment rate is calculated, because the unemployment rate is the percentage of those in the workforce who are trying to work and aren't able to. And the unemployment rate has gone up. It's approaching 15%, approaching 500,000 young people who are unemployed. That's 1 in 7. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the government to stop trying to pat themselves on the back and recognize that this is a crisis for Canadian young people. It's time for them to reverse course. When will they?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the data doesn't lie. In September, we created over 100,000 new full-time jobs in this country. Those are good jobs for all Canadians. We are embarking on a plan that is going to not only build projects, but build homes, make those homes more affordable for young Canadians, and bring forward next month a budget that is going to make a generational investment in Canadian industry, Canadian workers, Canadian families. I really hope that the members opposite can convince their whips to vote for it.
The member for Kenora-Kiiwatanong.
Canada has the slowest growing economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment, Mr. Speaker, and young Canadians are paying the price. The youth unemployment rate is nearly 15%, which is the highest it has been since 2010, with the exception of the COVID years, Mr. Speaker. 17,000 young people in Ontario have lost their jobs in the last month, and this Prime Minister wants to send $1 trillion of investment to the United States, which will only lower wages and push jobs to the south. Mr. Speaker, with rising youth unemployment, why is this Prime Minister selling out young Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it seems the Conservatives have an allergy to the facts. Fact, Canada created 60,000 net new jobs last month. Fact, Canada has experienced real wage growth year over year of 3.3%. Those are good stats, Mr. Speaker. These are the economic fundamentals that will allow Budget 2025 to make a generational investment in our economy. I'd offer the Conservatives a Benadryl, but maybe they could just accept the truth for once.
Monsieur le Président, le Canada a encore la croissance économique la plus lente du G7 et la deuxième plus haute taux de chômage. Pire encore, aujourd'hui, ça ne s'améliore pas pantoute. Le taux de chômage reste bloqué à 7 % et la création nette d'emplois depuis janvier, Monsieur le Président, malgré toutes les promesses des libéraux, à peine 22 000 jobs. La cerise sur le gâteau, le Premier ministre va envoyer 1 000 milliards aux États-Unis. Pourquoi? Mais pourquoi donc le Premier ministre sacrifie-t-il nos travailleurs pour aider les Américains?
Très bonne question. L'honorable ministre des Travaux publics.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est toujours intéressant de voir les conservateurs répéter les mêmes talking points que leur chef leur a écrit quand les faits, eux, ne mentent pas. Et les faits, c'est quoi, Monsieur le Président? C'est ce que Statistique Canada vient de rapporter aujourd'hui. Net 60 000 net nouvelles emplois au Canada en septembre, 106 nouvelles jobs à temps plein. Ça, c'est le fruit, Monsieur le Président, d'un gouvernement sérieux qui a un plan sérieux pour faire croître l'économie canadienne, unir l'économie canadienne et investir dans notre pays. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député de Côte-du-Sud, Témiscouata.
Il peut bien s'applaudir, M. le Président, mais la réalité, c'est qu'il y a des jobs qui se perdent au Canada, dans nos régions. Les usines ferment, les PME n'arrachent et tout le monde n'arrive même pas à la fin du mois. Est-ce que le fait Premier ministre, il a investi 1 000 milliards de dollars aux États-Unis au lieu d'aider les travailleurs ici au Canada? Pourquoi le Premier ministre crée des emplois aux États plutôt que de créer des emplois au Canada?
Très bonne question. L'honorable ministre.
Monsieur le Président, je pense que c'est fascinant pour n'importe qui regarde la période des questions de voir l'incompréhension de l'économie de la part du Parti conservateur. Il ne faut pas s'en surprendre. Leur chef a passé toute sa vie adulte ici en cette Chambre à penser à des petites lignes intelligentes pour la période des questions. Mais la réalité, Monsieur le Président, c'est que de ce côté-ci de la Chambre, on travaille pour unir l'économie canadienne, investir dans nos jeunes pour qu'il y ait des bons emplois en logement, pour bâtir à travers le pays, pour s'assurer de croître l'économie canadienne. Et les résultats parlent d'eux-mêmes. Aujourd'hui, Monsieur le Président, Statistique Canada, c'est 106 000 emplois à temps plein qui ont été créés en septembre seulement. On ne s'arrêtera pas là. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Monsieur le Président, le conflit avec Donald Trump est loin d'être fini et pourtant, Ottawa abandonne déjà nos travailleurs. Le 11 octobre, Ottawa coupe dans ses mesures d'accès d'urgence à l'assurance-emploi. Il réduit l'ajustement du taux de chômage qui permettait à plus de travailleurs de se qualifier. Il crée une discrimination en plus entre les types de travailleurs au détriment des travailleurs de l'industrie saisonnière, des travailleurs contractuels et j'en passe. Hier, toutes les grandes centrales syndicales du Québec ont exigé que les libéraux reculent. Est-ce qu'ils vont écouter les syndicats et continuer de protéger les travailleurs? Bravo.
Bravo. L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Monsieur le Président, nous soutenons la sécurité de la retraite des travailleurs de la santé et des soins à domicile. Nous investissons dans la formation syndicale et les métiers spécialisés. Nous construisons les projets d'envergure et de nouvelles maisons. Nous créons des dizaines de milliers d'emplois de qualité à travers le pays pour les travailleurs syndiqués. Notre gouvernement continuera de soutenir les syndicats et les travailleurs syndiqués.
L'honorable député de
Monsieur le Président, le même premier ministre qui est revenu de Washington les mains vides ne peut pas aujourd'hui abandonner les travailleurs comme si la guerre tarifaire était finie. Toutes les centrales syndicales du Québec exigent qu'Ottawa maintienne intégralement ses mesures d'urgence d'accès à l'assurance-emploi. Elles rappellent aussi que si les libéraux avaient réformé l'assurance-emploi, comme ils le promettent depuis 10 ans, on n'aurait pas besoin de mesures d'urgence aujourd'hui. Ça prend un régime fiable pour les travailleurs, mais dans l'immédiat, est-ce qu'Ottawa va au moins annuler ses coupes du 11 octobre? Oui!
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Mr. Speaker, we continue to invest in our workers right across the board and in making EI easier to access. In addition to that, we're investing in all sorts of union training and skilled trades, building major projects in new homes, and creating tens of thousands of good jobs right across the country. Our government is going to continue to stand with workers, make sure that they have access to the programs that are going to support them through these volatile times. I hope the members are on board with that.
L'honorable député de Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington.
Monsieur le Président, les chauffeurs à rabais sont un danger public. Tant mieux si Ottawa veut resserrer la traçabilité des revenus des chauffeurs incorporés, comme l'exige le Bloc. C'est un premier pas. Mais un premier pas, c'est pas assez quand il y a des décès sur nos routes et que Québec ouvre une enquête publique. Il faut empêcher les immigrants temporaires de s'incorporer. Il faut mieux outiller les contrôleurs routiers. Il faut faire des audits automatiques et j'en passe. Quand Ottawa va-t-il enfin utiliser tous ces leviers pour mettre fin aux chauffeurs à rabais?
Bravo!
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme la députée d'en face le sait, l'octroi des permis relève de la compétence des provinces. Elles doivent prendre les mesures qui s'imposent. Pour notre part, nous défendons les chauffeurs routiers qui méritent un salaire équitable et d'être protégés par la loi. La classification erronée est illégale et nous veillons à ce que la loi soit respectée. Plus de 1 000 inspections et activités de sensibilisation ont été réalisées depuis 2023. Avant tout, notre priorité est d'assurer la sécurité des routes et des conducteurs.
Honourable member for Lethbridge.
Here's what we know. We know that every dollar that this Prime Minister spends, it drives up inflation, which increases the cost of living for Canadians. He said he'd be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Well, the report card is in, and it's a big F, failure. I'm talking about Susie in my riding. She's a senior, and she's finding it difficult to be able to afford both rent and groceries. She's worked hard her entire life to make a go of it, and she's been rather successful until now. Now she's in this position where she's actually having to choose to skip meals in order to be able to pay her rent. That's not right. We live in Canada. It's the richest country, one of the richest countries in the world. Why is it that under this government, people like Susie are struggling so much?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Good news for Susie and that member's riding, and good news for all Canadians. This morning, our Prime Minister announced a package of more affordability measures, including an extension and making of permanence of the National School Food Program, which is great news for all Canadians. This is a program that feeds 400,000 more kids per year. I know the member opposite has voted against this program in the past, but I can't understand how she can stand up here and try to lecture the Liberal Party on standing up for Canadians on affordability.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
This member just told me that I should go back to my riding and tell Susie, a senior in my riding who has worked hard her entire life to be able to make ends meet, now can't pay for rent and groceries, therefore is skipping meals. This member just told me that I should tell her that she should enroll back in grade school so that she can take advantage of this government's bureaucratic school program? That's what this member just told me. Is he for real? Is he for real? If this is the definition of success, I'd hate to see the definition of failure.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Order.
I'm happy to clarify to the member opposite, there's a package of 3 affordability measures, and one includes automatic tax filing, which will help millions of Canadians, including seniors, to access benefits to which they're entitled. That's thousands of dollars for many Canadians, including the Canada Child Benefit, the GST rebate, the disability benefit, and many other benefits that Canadians will be able to take advantage of because of this government's actions. Automatic tax filing will make it easier for Canadians all across this country to access the benefits.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said Canadians should judge him by the cost at the grocery store. Well, they have, and he's failed. In Cambridge, the food bank saw over 23,000 visits last year, a 114% increase. Wow. 1/3 of those visits were children and youth, and 43% were first-time users, families who's never used the food bank before, now lining up for food. Even people with jobs can't afford groceries because the Prime Minister continues to take their lunch money to wine and dine abroad. If this is what success looks like to the Prime Minister, what does failure look like?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Wow! In addition to 60,000 net new jobs added to the Canadian economy, we've now announced more affordability measures for Canadians that will put money in their pockets. A national school food program made permanent for in perpetuity will benefit Canadians to the tune of $800 per year. That's helping put food in hungry bellies of kids all across Canada. I can't understand how the Conservative Party can try to lecture us about food bank lineups and then stand up and vote over and over in this House against feeding hungry children.
Gentleman member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, that wasn't an answer. This government took food off Canadian tables, then built a bureaucracy to take credit for giving some of the crumbs back. They talk about all these programs, but if they were working, then 1/3 of the people using food banks in Cambridge wouldn't be children. In my community, I've met parents who are working full-time and still skipping meals so their kids can eat. They're not failing, they're being failed. So on their behalf, I'll ask, why is it no longer a guarantee that a full-time job will put food on the table for families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we know that income security actually touches a lot of people in Canada. It's one of the reasons why today we've announced that the National School Food Program, a program that is going to help feed nearly 500,000 kids, is being made permanent. That program is going to save families up to $800 a year. But we're also making progress on another important driver of income insecurity, and that is housing. We're going to be building affordable housing at a scale that's not seen since the World War II. If the member opposite cares about affordability for families, then they need to get on board and help us build the housing, bring down the rent, bring down the costs. That will help.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Just before the Prime Minister left Brookfield, he made sure that Brookfield headquarters left for the United States. The Prime Minister loves creating jobs in the United States. That's why youth unemployment rose in September to 14.7%. In Ontario alone, 17,000 young people lost their jobs. In fact, youth employment rate is sitting at a level not seen since 1999, with brief exception for the pandemic. But with young people unable to find work, the Prime Minister wants to send $1 trillion of investment to the United States. Why?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Statistics Canada this morning told Canadians that last month, this new government created over 100,000 new full-time jobs. That's an achievement. That is progress. This government is committed to building a strong Canadian economy, the strongest one in the G7. That involves creating major projects, building affordable housing. These are plans that are going to help employ tens of thousands of people and create career-starting jobs for all Canadians. At the same time, we're investing in apprenticeships and we're investing in co-ops. Why won't the members opposite vote in favour of these plans?
The honourable member for York Centre.
Tell that to the 15% of young people in Toronto who can't find a job. But Speaker, with $54 billion of net investment fleeing Canada, the Prime Minister is leaving Canada's automotive workers destitute. With job losses at GM and Stellantis, we now learn that the auto tariffs are here to stay. Christmas is just around the corner, but thousands of Ontario's auto workers are on the chopping block. Why did this Prime Minister sell out Ontario's auto workers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canada currently enjoys the best deal among the U.S.'s trading partners. This is not up for debate. However, as the member would like to see us do, our government is committed to ongoing negotiations and to securing greater tariff relief for all our industries. We are laser-focused on protecting Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Trade discussions are ongoing, and we will not apologize for it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member of Kamloops, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians wouldn't need food banks except for failed Liberal policies. Year over year, youth employment is up 1.2%. BC's forestry workers are worried they may be next. Almost 10 years ago, the Foreign Affairs Minister was to come up with a framework within 100 days. And this new Prime Minister promised, quote, to negotiate a win. Instead, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled. Why won't the PM fight for Canadian lumber mills and the families and jobs that they create?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, we've announced amazing programs to help the forest industry. And we have $700 million to help them in liquidity. We have $500 million to help them with the transformation, and $50 million to help our workers in the industry. We will not rest until we help all of our industry affected by tariff. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Gaspésie, les îles de la Madeleine, liste de gauche.
Monsieur le Président, les Gaspésiens sont abandonnés par Via Rail qui refuse de rétablir ses services chez nous, même s'il reçoit 1,3 milliard d'aides fédérales, notamment pour offrir des liaisons régionales. Et même si Québec a investi 355 millions de dollars pour réparer le rail qui a été remis à neuf jusqu'à Port-Daniel. Via Rail, donc, encaisse l'argent d'Ottawa pour servir les régions, mais refuse de fournir le service et de remplir son devoir envers les Gaspésiens. Le gouvernement va-t-il interpeller Via Rail pour qu'il rétablisse ses services entre Matapédia et Port-Daniel dans les meilleurs délais?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Merci pour la question, Mr. Speaker. Like the member, our government supports and believes in the importance of passenger rail service. Mr. Speaker, Via Rail is committed to returning to Gaspé as soon as the rehabilitation work on the rail infrastructure has been completed and service can resume safely all the way to Gaspé.
L'honorable député de Rimouski-la-Matapédia.
Monsieur le Président, Via Rail reçoit 1,3 milliard d'Ottawa, notamment pour offrir des liaisons régionales, mais rien n'a été investi pour améliorer les services dans l'est du Québec. À Rimouski, le train passe à peine 3 fois par semaine, aux environs de 2 heures du matin. Imaginez, c'est complètement déconnecté de la réalité d'une capitale régionale et surtout de celle des citoyens qui doivent voyager pour des traitements médicaux, pour leurs études ou pour voir leur famille. Puisque ce gouvernement paye Via Rail pour servir les régions, va-t-il l'interpeller pour qu'il cesse d'ignorer l'Est du Québec?
Le secrétaire parlementaire.
Merci pour la question, Mr. Speaker. Again, the importance of rail is important to us. It's important to the people of Gaspé. Connection connects all of us to job, recreation, and other. We are committed to rail rehabilitation. We'll continue to be committed to rail rehabilitation. Why? Because it's the right thing to do to build Canada strong.
Député de Montmorency-Charlevoix.
Merci, M. le Président. Depuis toujours, les Québécois et Québécoises sont fiers de vivre dans des communautés sécuritaires. Pourtant, les plus récentes statistiques démontrent une hausse importante de la criminalité, notamment dans les crimes violents et dans les invasions de domicile. Dans Montmorency-Charlevoix, où est-ce que le tourisme est important, et ces mêmes touristes nous répètent fois après fois à quel point ils se sentent en sécurité chez nous, c'est une tendance qui est inquiétante. La prévention, c'est important en santé, mais c'est aussi important en criminalité. Remettre les criminels en liberté fois après fois, c'est de risquer la sécurité de la population. Pourquoi le gouvernement libéral s'entête-t-il à banaliser la violence?
Le secrétaire parlementaire.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les Canadiennes et les Canadiens méritent de se sentir
en sécurité dans leur collectivité. Nous en sommes d'accord. Notre gouvernement s'attaquera aux délinquants violents, récidivistes, avec un nouveau projet de loi visant à renforcer le système de remise en liberté sous caution, la détermination de la peine et l'efficacité de nos tribunaux. Nous travaillons en étroite collaboration avec les provinces et les territoires pour reformer la mise en liberté sous caution et la détermination pour leur donner aux policiers et aux procureurs de la Couronne des outils plus solides pour garder les délinquants violents hors de nos rues.
Alors, député de Montmorency, Charlevoix.
Encore une réponse au futur, Monsieur le Président. Il y a une expression très connue au Québec, verser des larmes de crocodile. On ne peut pas être à l'origine d'un problème et ensuite de ça prétendre qu'on est de tout cœur avec les victimes du problème qu'on crée. Ce que les familles canadiennes et québécoises souhaitent, ce n'est pas des mots puis de la compassion de façade, c'est des actions concrètes qui sont menées vers le crime. Des mesures fortes, des mesures efficaces et des mesures ambitieuses pour véritablement assurer la sécurité de la population, mais aussi assurer la sécurité des victimes partout au Canada.
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Monsieur le Président, les conservateurs sont bons pour jouer avec les chiffres. Alors voici une statistique. Aux États-Unis, 3 fois plus d'homicides qu'au Canada, et surtout avec la violence avec des armes. Alors, il faut se demander la question, pourquoi toutes les mesures des conservateurs sont copiées sur des mesures qui proviennent des États-Unis, alors qu'on sait que ça ne marche pas? Monsieur le Président, les Canadiens veulent des méthodes canadiennes pour lutter contre le crime. Il y a une bonne raison pour ça, parce qu'on est meilleur qu'ailleurs. Alors, nous, notre gouvernement, nous sommes fixés pour améliorer ça. J'espère que les conservateurs...
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Weak Liberal bail laws like Bill C-75 require courts to release repeat violent offenders at the earliest possible opportunity under the least onerous condition. Now, just days ago, a man in New York was violently injured during a home invasion, and one of the accused was already out on bail for crimes as serious as attempted murder. Now, this Prime Minister promised Liberals would flip-flop on bail, but that was just the same old Liberal trick. You guys know, the one where they promise one thing but do nothing. So 6 months after he took power, Liberal bail laws are still on the books. Will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way so we can do it for them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's time for a quick criminal law lesson for the member opposite. As they know, Canada follows common law rules, and so the principle of restraint that they keep citing was already law way before C-75, as confirmed by the Supreme Court in the case of Antic 2017. In our laws, it is clear that an accused person may be denied bail when detention is necessary for the protection of the safety of the public. That's Section 515, Paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code. I don't have my code with me here today, but I'll be happy to email the article to my colleague.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
We'll take no lessons from the Liberals on bail reform when, because of their laws in places like Vancouver, you had the same 40 criminals arrested 6,000 times in 1 year. Now, while the Liberals claim they're consulting on bail reform, but Canadians aren't waiting for meetings. They need action now. Since weak Liberal laws have been put on the books, violent crime is up 50%. Innocent people are dying. Bailey McCourt was murdered just hours after her abuser was released on bail. How many more victims will it take? Now, will the Prime Minister do the right thing, scrap Liberal bail, stop obstructing, or get out of the way so we can do it for them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I've risen already before, and the party opposite says for them to do the work. Let them do the work. These Conservatives have adopted 6 crime bills during their time in government, and every single one of them was struck down by the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, including the most recent one in 2023 in the Hills decision. The member opposite should do his homework and get informed. Mr. Speaker, let me assure this House that on this side of the House, we are working on serious bail reform in collaboration with the provinces and the territories and law enforcement. It will be fully constitutional on repeat violent offenders. This is the kind of leadership...
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' taxpayer-funded safe supply is anything but safe. In British Columbia, these drugs are flooding the black market, funding organized crime, and feeding the very addiction crisis they claim to solve. This Liberal government is subsidizing the drug trade, while the public safety minister refuses to acknowledge this public safety crisis. When will this Liberal government end their reckless drug supply schemes that's poisoning Canadians and pouring profits in the hands of criminals?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Monsieur le Président, tout le monde au Canada mérite d'être en sécurité, mérite de se sentir en sécurité. C'est pourquoi nous donnons aux services de police et à l'Agence des services frontaliers les ressources et les outils nécessaires pour lutter contre le crime, que ce soit pour lutter contre le trafic de fentanyl, que ce soit contre l'importation illégale d'armes à feu, la traite humaine, la cyberpornographie, le blanchiment d'argent. Nous agissons. Monsieur le Président, les Canadiens et les Canadiennes ont élu le Parti libéral du Canada. C'est parce qu'ils savent qu'ils peuvent compter sur nous pour assurer leur sécurité.
The member for Mississauga, East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, champions lift up their communities. And over the last few weeks, we've seen the Toronto Blue Jays lift up the spirits of Canadians from coast to coast to coast with their ALDS championship win over the New York Yankees. But the Blue Jays organization isn't just about winning ball games. Can the Secretary of State for Sport update this House of Commons on his work with the Jays Care Foundation to bring sports opportunities to more youth across Canada?
The Honourable Secretary of State, Sport.
Thank my friend and fellow Team Canada Olympian for his question and his dedication to community sport. He's right. Champions lift our communities up, and the Jays Care Foundation is making baseball and softball more inclusive and accessible right across Canada. Through Sport Canada's Community Sport for All initiative, our government has co-invested $450,000 with the Jays Care Foundation for a $1 million impact to ensure that young women and girls, Indigenous youth, persons with disabilities, justice-involved youth, and lower-income families all benefit from the power of sport. So, to the Blue Jays, can I get a Let's Go Blue Jays on 3? 1, 2, 3. Let's go Blue Jays!
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are breaking their campaign promise to stand up for auto workers and to stand up against tariffs. This week, we all saw the Prime Minister sit down in the Oval Office, meekly nodding while President Trump threatened to steal more of our auto workers' jobs. I didn't see any elbows go up. I saw a promise to send another $1 trillion of Canadian investment over to the USA as a reward for Trump's aggression. Canadian auto workers expected to see more fight than that. Why is the Prime Minister letting them down?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Canada-US Trade.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker. I want to reiterate that Canada currently enjoys the best trade agreement with the U.S. This is not up for debate. However, we're not entirely pleased, and discussions are ongoing. Because as you know, the Prime Minister has consistently emphasized we will only accept the best agreement for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, none of those words provide material support to the 8,000 of my neighbors in my hometown who work at the largest car plant in Canada. They depend on those jobs to put food on the table this Thanksgiving. They depend on those jobs to pay the rent at the end of the month. Let me be clear, this plant cannot survive the current tariff regime, and the Trump officials said the regime is staying. We're in extra innings now. Will the Prime Minister fight for these jobs before the game is over?
The Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Is focused on protecting Canadian jobs, workers, and businesses. We have stabilized supply chains through initiatives like our Strategic Response Fund. We've provided direct support to our affected industries, just like steel, aluminum, manufacturing industries, auto, and agriculture. We are doing this all while maintaining Canada's enviable fiscal position and triple credit rating. We are Canada strong.
The Member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
After 10 years of this Liberal government, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy of any G7 country. Since the Prime Minister's visit to Washington, the U.S. Commerce Secretary stated car assembly is going to be in America, and there is nothing Canada can do about it. This Liberal Prime Minister recently promised the President $1 trillion of new investment would flow into the United States. So, are those the jobs of Canadian auto workers, including those at the GM plant in St. Catharines?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our government is standing up for auto workers in all tariff-impacted industries in Canada. We've put out a package of supports to support industries, offered a remissions framework, and much, much more. But today I want to highlight some good news for all Canadians regarding affordability. We've made the National School Food Program permanent. That'll feed 400,000 more kids in perpetuity, Mr. Speaker. We are also offering automated tax filings for Canadians so that millions of Canadians can get access to support like the Canada Child Benefit. That's going to help families across the country, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
That member should talk to the residents in his riding that lost their job when GM cut the third shift in Oshawa. Exactly. This summer, GM announced plans to invest $4 billion in 3 auto plants. That doesn't include the $800 million in Tonawanda, New York, just across the border from us. And it's not St. Catharines. As billions of dollars flee Canada for the U.S., Canadian auto workers are watching in dismay. Why does this Prime Minister seem more interested in helping U.S. auto workers than those here at home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, apparently common sense does not survive the Conservative caucus any longer. It seems like common sense is not so common over there. Common sense would suggest that when a country is in a trade war, a responsible government would support its workforce and industries, which is exactly what this government has been doing. We launched a $5 billion strategic response fund, a reskilling and retraining program for up to 50,000 workers, $10 billion of liquidity support, a remissions framework, a Buy Canadian policy. We are doing the heavy lifting to ensure that our industries survive.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Yesterday, we were treated to an incredibly embarrassing display as the Prime Minister stood here and bragged about a 10% tariff on Canadian auto. I had the privilege of meeting with Unifor auto workers earlier this week, and they told me a 10% tariff on auto will mean the end of the Canadian auto industry. Wow. So either the Prime Minister is unbelievably uninformed about what will hurt the auto industry, or he actually doesn't care when President Trump says he wants to take the auto sector. Is that why the Prime Minister is going to send $1 billion of investment to the United States so they can build more auto jobs for the Americans?
Yeah, good question. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need a reality check. That's right. At the end of the day, there were 60,000 jobs created. Almost half of those are in the manufacturing industry. When the leader of the Conservative Party sat with Stephen Harper, the manufacturing industry was devastated in the province of Ontario. Don't try to give us a lesson when we have a Prime Minister that understands the needs of Canadians. That's why we're building Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Giving them a lesson would imply that they could actually learn something, Mr. Speaker, so we're not going to try. Here are the facts. GM just laid off 750 workers. The Brampton Stellantis assembly plant has been on layoff for 8 months waiting for retooling money. Meanwhile, Stellantis just is going to invest $10 billion in the United States. Why? Because the Prime Minister has failed to negotiate an agreement with the United States after promising elbows up. Is this also why he's promising $1 trillion of investment into the United States? Is that so Stellantis and other companies can build more factories there? Why have they abandoned auto workers in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. While the Conservatives go around telling people that Canada is broken when Canada is the best place in the world to call home, here are the facts. We have a Prime Minister that is committed to major developments, 5 major projects, $60 billion worth of investments. All regions of Canada, we're building Canada strong, and we're going to wait till we can get the best deal for Canadians. We're not on the Conservative agenda, we're on the Canadians' agenda, and that means materializing and building our country, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the coastal forest industry is in crisis. Harvest volumes have been cut in half. 9 mills have closed, and thousands of hardworking Canadians have lost their jobs. And what the people want to know is, where is the federal government? The PM promised to, quote, negotiate a win with the United States. Instead, lumber tariffs have doubled since he became Prime Minister. Meanwhile, permitting and legal issues have only gotten worse. How many more forestry workers across BC have to lose their jobs until this Liberal government comes up with a plan that actually works?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian government is right there with Canadian workers and affected Canadian communities. We've announced $50 million in supports for workers, $700 million in liquidity support, and $500 million to innovate both products and markets. We are more than happy to work with the members opposite if they have ideas to continue to support the forestry sector, but we haven't heard any, Mr. Speaker.
The member for North Island Powell River.
We're one pulp mill closure away from the total collapse of coastal forestry. That is a quote from Kermit Dahl, the mayor of Campbell River, articulating just how dire the situation has become. On Vancouver Island, every single mill is running at reduced capacity due to lack of fiber and crippling tariffs. Tariffs that this Prime Minister promised to have removed by July 21st. Instead, they have increased by 100%. What does the Prime Minister have to say to the thousands of Canadian forestry families? He's selling out by not keeping his word.
Good question. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, we've been clear that the U.S. tariff on Canadian softwood lumber are absolutely unjustified, and we're working at every level to resolve the softwood lumber dispute. I've got 40 years of experience in business, and never, ever do I negotiate in public. That's what our Prime Minister is doing to support all of our workers. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Vernon Lake Country, Monashee.
Mr. Speaker, has the Prime Minister ever had to have to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent? Has he ever felt the panic of not knowing how to make it till the end of the month? That's the reality for thousands of BC forestry workers this winter, while he jets around the world handing out jobs to his wealthy friends and making concessions to the Americans. He bragged that his elbows would stand up to Trump, but Canadians are worse than ever since his elbows arrived. So I have to ask, how many BC lumber workers will lose their jobs because of this Prime Minister's failures, and why won't he fight for Canadian families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Energy.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is going across the world finding new trade deals and new markets for Canadian products, including forestry products. This is part of a diversification effort that is backed by $500 million that is going to support new markets and new innovations. We've got supports for workers, $50 million. We've got liquidity support, $700 million. And we want to work with people to find more and do more, but we haven't heard any ideas from the opposition here. So I'd welcome them at any time.
Member for Prescott, Russell, Cumberland.
Monsieur le Président, les Canadiennes et les Canadiens ont choisi ce nouveau gouvernement libéral pour réduire les coûts. C'est en investissant dans les familles qu'on les aide à aller de l'avant et non avec l'approche du Parti conservateur visant à retirer les prestations. Peut la secrétaire parlementaire nous dire comment nous y parvenons?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Je tiens à remercier ma collègue de Prescott Russell Cumberland pour sa question. Bonne nouvelle, Monsieur le Président. Votre nouveau gouvernement rend permanent le Programme national d'alimentation scolaire. Cela permettra l'accès aux aliments nutritifs dont tous les élèves ont besoin pour apprendre, ainsi qu'aux familles d'économiser environ $800 par année sur leur panier d'épicerie. Nous réduisons les coûts pour les familles afin que les enfants puissent s'épanouir et que les parents puissent aller de l'avant. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
The controversial billion-dollar loan to BC Ferries continues to take on water, thanks to a Czech News exclusive that shreds the bogus talking points that these ferries could not be built in Canada. We know that BC Ferries was presented a report that showed that Canadian shipyards could build these new vessels, creating thousands of jobs, billions in economic growth, and pride in Canada's craftsmanship. Shamefully, they rejected this made-in-Canada option and instead went to communist China. With so many Canadian workers at the food bank, remind us again, why is the Prime Minister continually selling us out?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We've expressed our disappointment with how this process went on. We were not part. This is a Crown corporation. We were not part. However, I will tell you what we did, Mr. Speaker. We did sell a policy buy Canadian. We are encouraging all of Canadian procurement to buy Canadian. We've also launched the Defence Procurement Agency to encourage our companies. We are building Canada with Canadian workers, with Canadian material. This is how we're building a Canadian strong economy, not by peddling slogans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
They are cutting checks to China, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals can pretend that this was all BC Ferry's sole decision, but it was this government that created the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, filled it with billions of taxpayer dollars, allowed the loan to go forward with no questions asked. Conservatives believe the loan should be cancelled because if Canadian shipyards, Canadian steel workers, Canadian jobs don't qualify for support, then what's Canadian about it? If this government is more comfortable funding shipyards in the People's Republic of China than jobs here in Canada, why not just call it the Beijing Infrastructure Bank and be done with it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the opposition is showing how they just want here to divide Canadian. We're standing by Canadian worker, we're standing by Canadian industry, we are investing, we launched Build Canada Home in order to build Canada affordable home. Last time Conservatives were in power, they lost 800,000 affordable homes. So please do not give us a lesson about affordability. You lost 800,000 affordable homes. They lost 800, and they built six affordable homes, Mr. So do not give us a lesson.
Again, address the comments to the chair. The honourable member for Surrey Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, canola isn't just a prairie success story. It's a national powerhouse, bigger than our steel, aluminum, and auto sectors combined. Yet while unfair Chinese tariffs continue to crush the canola sector, this Liberal government, they're silent. Not a word, not a plan, not a single success. When will the Liberals stop abandoning Canadian farmers and finally, for once, stand up for the good people who feed this country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The canola is one of the best in the world, the best product, and China's tariffs are completely unfair. As we are resolving this trade dispute, Mr. Speaker, we are there to support our farmers with programs to support them. We have announced $370 million in support, and we have also changed the regulation to allow more biofuel in this country that will use the product from our canola producers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo. The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, the world is changing. Global challenges are on the rise, and we are witnessing profound shifts affecting peace, prosperity, and cooperation around the world. The United Nations recently turned 80, and leaders from around the globe convened in New York for the General Assembly's high-level week. Could the Secretary of State for International Development update the House on the overall outlook at the UN and the discussions that he participated in?
The Honourable Secretary of State, International Development.
Canada has built a strong and enduring reputation as a trusted partner in international development. For over 50 years, we have fought poverty, hunger, and disease, and have been a consistent champion for human rights, dignity, and equality. At the UN General Assembly, one thing that stood out loud and clear was the deep trust our allies and partners place in our country as one that always stands ready to support shared action on global challenges. At a time when the rules-based order is coming under strain, many are looking to Canada as a clear voice for shared progress and cooperation. Thank you.
Honourable member for Lanark Frontenac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you install automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, in police cars to be used when the police are the first on the scene at a 911 call for a heart attack, you can save a lot of lives. Municipal police across Canada have been saving lives with AEDs for years. RCMP officers are already trained how to use AEDs. Equipping all RCMP vehicles nationwide with AEDs would save upwards of 300 lives per year. Therefore, after 10 years in government, why haven't the Liberals installed AEDs in all RCMP cruisers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Public Safety.
Monsieur le Président, c'est une option qui a été déjà regardée, qui est tout à fait valable. Ça implique des coûts, ça implique l'organisation avec les organisations locales, les forces de l'ordre policières. Il y a déjà dans plusieurs provinces des programmes similaires qui font de bons résultats. Nous pouvons attester que la défibrillation électrique est une mesure efficace pour sauver des vies.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. September's job numbers are out, and it's more bad news. Unemployment remains at a 10-year high, and the situation is getting worse for young people who face the highest unemployment rate since 2010. 1 in 6 youth are out of work, with many more underemployed and unable to gain experience in their chosen careers. This is not only unfair to them, it's damaging our economy as their skills and talents go untapped. What is this government doing to address this unprecedented jobs crisis, especially for young Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, today's job numbers are actually good for Canadians. They show that there are 60,000 net new jobs, 100,000 new jobs in full-time work, and over 28,000 new jobs in manufacturing. This government is squarely focused on young people and making sure that we're going to have good career-building jobs for the future. That's why we are making major investments right now in major projects right across the country, building homes at a scale we haven't seen since World War II. These are the type of initiatives that are going to create tens of thousands of good jobs for Canadians going forward. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Well, higher unemployment for young people is not good news. Yesterday, I met with the Elbows Up for Climate Coalition, a national group of mayors calling for federal investments to prevent and mitigate the ravages of climate change. They explained the real costs of failing to do so, including catastrophic destruction in places like Jasper, to the high cost of food due to crop failure and drought. Folks can't get insurance and they need help to retrofit their homes. Will this government help their communities take action on the climate and put young people to work through the NDP's Youth Climate Corps?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And every time I come out here, I talk to the last two people I talk to are my children, 17 and 14, and I think about their future. And I know this Liberal government has a strong message that we want to fight, protect, and build Canada strong while protecting our environment. And that's the commitment I have for them. That's the commitment this side has for all children and youth right across this country, that this country will be one that's even better and brighter for them to inherit in this generation and next generation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, and that concludes question period for today. Routine business. The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. During question period, the Parliamentary Secretary claimed that the jobs numbers were good news for young people. And actually, they show a significant increase. I would like to request the permission of the House to table the actual jobs report.
I'll just indicate that there's already clearly not unanimous consent. Seeing no more points of order, we'll carry on with routine proceedings. Dépôt de... Happy Thanksgiving as well. Dépôt de document. Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary committees. Dépôt de projet de loi émanant des députés. First reading of Senate public bills.
Well, there we have it. That's the end of the question period. And you may have noticed there's quite a bit of choppiness. I'm getting a lot of overloading on the encoder. I'm going to have to look at this. I don't know if I can keep doing this score. Because that might be just causing a lot of choppiness. That's the issue of having to deal with whatever equipment you can afford, I guess. Well, let's look at the scores here. We had 82 lies, 5 actual answers, 3 of them that belong to self-licking ice cream questions, right? The free BQs, free B question that the Liberals asked themselves, and but there were a couple of answers actually that fell within the parameters of actually answering the question and not embellishing anything. Now, one of the questions that was answered outside of the FBQs was the one regarding the railroad access up in northern Quebec. And initially, the first answer did answer because they were talking about the reclamation of the line on the way up. But then the follow-up question was they wanted more specifics regarding why the rail have refused to engage the locals in providing better service because I think it's in that area in Saint-Jean, I guess a bit of a hub. I mean, really, it's kind of like a northern capital area that everybody goes to because it's about 3 hours north of Quebec City. Well, the train goes through there at 2 o'clock in the morning. Which is fine, I guess, if you want to get to Montreal. I mean, if you want to get to Quebec City for your medical appointment at 5 o'clock in the morning. which doesn't make any sense. So they're just asking, like, why can't we get better service? Seeing as they're a bit of a hub up north, and the whole aspect of the trains in Canada was one of the prerequisites of Confederation, that the entire country be joined by rail. And of course, we just done away with any traditions that we have in Canada, including that. 37 questions overall. And that plus the three that were free, so that's 40 questions. It's quite a heavy bunch of questions. And of course, on Fridays, a lot of people get upset with this. Is that the house was relatively empty. It's like on Fridays, and it is a long weekend. So everybody's screwing off the ones they can get back to their writing. Some of them have far to go, and a lot of people that stay behind are the ones that are more local, that don't have far to travel. But we're paying them. We're paying them to be there. We're paying them a lot of money, and they voted themselves an annual raise every year, regardless of how badly they do their job. So at least they could do is actually show up for work. At least visually. Maybe even a cardboard cutout would be nice. Anyway, we will be back on Monday with a nap. The House is not sitting next week. We'll decide what we're doing. There are plenty of committees to review. And I expect there will be a video coming out from this. There was a very interesting question that was asked regarding how an old person, a senior, is supposed to be feeding themselves when they're choosing between rent and food. And the minister comes back and says, "We have a free lunch program at schools for kids." Not a good look on him. And when he was responding, he was a bit shaky. You could tell how badly he screwed up in his canned response. Because he knew he was going to clip. And he will be. So watch for that video. Well, thanks for coming out. We will see you next week. Thanks for coming by. Like, share, subscribe. Bye-bye.